Warning.
This episode contains movie spoilers. Granted, Silence of the Lamb came out over 30 years ago, but someone out there may not have seen it yet. Mom.
Yeah, the best movies have the greatest bad guys. Terminator. There's no greater bad guy than Arnold. And he's without emotion and never stops. Or Star Wars. I was 7 when it came out and it made such an impression on me. Because there was no one as vicious as Darth Vader. I mean, to choke a guy without even touching him, how powerful and evil can you get? And then to have both of them become good guys, it's harder to come up with a better Hollywood example of redemption than Darth Vader.
I think another bad guy, possibly one of the best, is Hannibal Lecter. Now, his character has been played by some of the best actors.
Oh, absolutely. Brian Cox and Mads Mikkelsen are both great and 2 of my favorite actors, but no one's ever going to come close to what Anthony Hopkins did.
I think the best part in that movie, in Silence of the Lambs, was when Hannibal was interrogating Clarice, but it was supposed to be the opposite. Clarice was supposed to be interrogating Hannibal, who was the criminal. This conversation that we are going to play is one of the best parts of Silence of the Lamb. And there is something spiritually profound to what he says here. Take a listen.
You were telling me the truth back in Baltimore, sir. Please continue now.
Well, I have read the case files, have you? Everything you need to find him is right there in those pages.
Then tell me how.
First principles, Clarice. Simplicity. Read Marcus Aurelius. Of each particular thing, ask, what is it in itself? What is its nature? What does he do, this man you seek?
He kills women.
No, that is incidental. What is the first and principal thing he does? What needs does he serve by killing?
Anger. Social acceptance and sexual frustration, sir.
No, he covets. That is his nature. And how do we begin to covet, Clarice? Do we seek out things to covet? Make an effort to answer now.
No. We just...
No, we begin by coveting what we see every day. Don't you feel eyes moving over your body, Clarice? And don't your eyes seek out the things you want?
All right, yes. Now please tell me how.
No.
Our eyes do seek out the things that we want. Hannibal was correct on this. Often, this can happen, though, to our detriment. Think about this. Buffalo Bill, okay, he's the guy who was killing women in this movie. He was seeking out things to desire with his eyes. And Clarice was trying to get information out of Hannibal to find Buffalo Bill. But he was seeking out things to desire with his eyes. And he was coveting. And what happened to Buffalo Bill? He became a monster. He was murdering women with the notion that this would help him become a woman, because what he would do is he would kill these women, he would take their skin off of them, and he was sewing a skin suit, planning on wearing it so that way he could be a woman.
Yeah, I mean, this is top of the line insanity. This is where coveting can lead you. He became something he was never meant to be. It destroyed him. Now, we'd like to think that that would never happen to us, and it may not take you to that extreme, but coveting is definitely a road to no place you would want to be.
And it just doesn't happen in the movies, all right? It happens in real life, too. Think about this. We covet all kinds of things. One of the number one things that people covet, what do you think that is? Pornography. Pornography is coveting on steroids. It has destroyed so many lives and so many families. And I think back to this pornography, people think that it's so innocent. I remember when Dietrich and I were running a recovery program up north in Ohio, we had somebody that went there and he heard a guy talk about how Jesus saved him from that addiction. He shared how he hadn't even thought that it was wrong. So this is how prevalent pornography is. And it's coveting. It's a sin. And it's a sin that starts in the mind. It starts with how we think. And it starts where our eyes are. Coveting the bodies and sexual experiences manufactured by a group out to destroy anyone who's into this, take your money, is a multi-billion-dollar industry in our country here in the United States. And it's now the biggest addiction in our nation.
Yeah, we are a nation with a coveting problem. Too often we think of coveting like it's no big deal. We minimize it by calling it window shopping. And we now know that extended exposure to pornography changes the brain in the same way that drug addiction does. This window shopping alters the brain. It changes the core of who you are as a human being. Coveting is no small thing. And we now know scientifically, porn isn't either. It permanently damages your brain.
And part of the problem is that there are so many things that we can covet. People's houses, cars, people's money, people's jobs. But there are things we cannot see. We can covet the admiration of others or the acceptance by others. And we can't even covet relationships that we think that we should have.
Yeah, there's an endless list of things that we can covet. What are we doing when we covet? We're allowing ourselves to see others as the enemy. And we're telling God, hey, you know what? I think you've gypped me. It's not fair. And I don't like you.
In the Bible, there was King David. He was described in the Bible as a man after God's own heart, which means he was devoted to God. But there was a point in his life, he got his eyes off of God and onto a woman he coveted. He saw a woman, her name was Bathsheba, and he desired to take her as his own, and he did. And this led to his sin, and he ended up ordering others to set a trap to kill that woman's husband. This was all done to cover his sin. Then he began to have numerous problems during his reign as king because of that coveting, because of that adultery or that sinful relationship. And it all started with just a little thought of, well, it's not mine, but it should be.
Yeah, coveting starts with a thought. What you think about shapes you. Someone smarter than us said it this way: thoughts determine feelings, feelings determine actions. The things that we think about shape the way that we feel, and the way that we feel determines how we act. We know this.
And if you think about depressing things, what happens? You become depressed. If you think about good things, well, your mood gets better and you might even get happy. And the way you feel pushes the things you do. When you feel good, you do good things. And when you're angry, well, your inflamed emotions come out in your actions, don't they?
So how do we change our thoughts? Because that can sound like it's intimidating and impossible. Now, there is a way to do it. This is from Romans chapter 12. It says this: "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be living and holy sacrifices, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new being by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect."
I like that. I like how it says, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, which means we shouldn't be doing the things that other people are doing. I also like that where it says, let God transform you. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to be a process, right? It's a transformation. He's going to transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. A life that is given to God is a life that is sacrificed. We see this in these verses. What happens when you sacrifice something? It's no longer yours. It belongs to someone else, in this case, God.
Yeah, giving your life to God is the most expensive thing that you can do because it does cost everything. But that everything you give transforms you. It changes you into something far better than what you were.
And is there still a battle? Of course. But now you have a God who is all powerful, who is on your side and fighting and working on your behalf. And when you give your life to God, you will be transformed.
So what does that mean? Colossians 3 says it this way. And that means killing off everything connected with that way of death. Sexual promiscuity, impurity, lust, doing whatever you feel like whenever you feel like it, and grabbing whatever attracts your fancy. That's a life shaped by things and feelings instead of by God.
Our life is to be a life that is shaped by God. I mean, we are living in a world that, gosh, it is shaped by so many things and feelings. How do we know this? Because we are living in a world dominated by lust. And we are constantly focused on doing what we want when we want it and grabbing for anything at any time.
We wonder why the world feels like it's about to fall apart at any moment. I mean, this is a world that is fixated on coveting and lust, and it's always going to be on the precipice of falling apart. That's the nature of lust and coveting. It never satisfies. It always demands more.
Yeah, and where it says, fix your eyes on Christ, it kind of reminds me, being a teacher, that when we have a child or a student who is ADD, attention deficit disorder, they have trouble keeping their attention on their assignments. We sometimes would put them in a cubicle where there would be kind of like walls on the left and the right and in front of them. So that way it would help them focus on their assignment. That's all that they could fix their eyes on, right? They couldn't see what was going on the right side of them or the left side or in front of them. All they could look at was the assignment. And that was the whole goal, is to help them get focused on what they're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to be doing as believers. God is telling us to fix our eyes on Him. And it's going to be completely different when we do that, because everything out there is trying to distract you and is calling out for you to covet. And when we fix our eyes on God, when we allow Him to transform us, there's going to be that peace in the middle of all of these distractions. These distractions will continue to go on. They'll continue to try to get our attention. But eyes that are fixed on Him, on God, will know the peace, will eventually give us the power and be able to lessen those distractions that are calling our names. And we do have two choices. We can become the monster, right? Like Buffalo Bill or even Hannibal Lecter, a life that is coveting, or we can choose to be a life that is transformed. And then those things won't have any power or pull over us then.
Yeah, life transformed is described beautifully in the lyrics of Fix My Eyes by For King and Country. You'd be hard-pressed to find anything describing a life devoted to Christ better than this.
And this is a catchy song. I love it. Here's how the chorus goes. It says, love like I'm not scared, give when it's not fair.
Live life for another, take time for a brother.
Fight for the weak ones, speak out for freedom. And I do believe that that's what you guys are trying to do, and we are doing here at Truth is Not Treason.
Find faith in the battle, stand tall, but above it all,
fix my eyes on you.
Until next time, my fellow traders.
I'd